All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, July 30th. We have a full MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays, like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If you do want to fade me, those plays are going to be in the pinned comments, so make sure to keep an eye on that. In terms of last night, we do turn a profit. Now, it's only 0.04 units that we end up winning. We do go 3-2, but the reason for that small profit is because one of our wins, which was our parlay, the Smurfy parlay, the sum runs in the first inning parlay, if you know, you know, that was a half-unit play for -130 over on FanDuel. So a small profit, 0.04 units, nothing to brag about, nothing to write home about, but it's not in the red, it's in the green. Unfortunately, our ride of the day, gotta drop the womp womp here on Dad Hustle Bets. He had Luis Robert under 0.5 runs scored. Luis Robert ends up scoring, so unfortunately that one does not come through. I like the spot, I like the look. We jumped on board, and so did you guys as well. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's pretty simple. All you have to use is that hashtag ride of the day in the comments, and then whichever comment gets the most likes, we end up jumping on board with riding with, and then you get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we celebrate, we continue to ride with your play the next day. If you lose, unfortunately you got to face the womp womp, but I did like this spot and I liked the look as well. So get those hashtag ride of the day bets in there, ride of the day comments in there with your favorite bets of the day, and then also make sure you guys are liking the comments that you think are good looks. All right. Couple things to talk about here before we do jump into the games. First and foremost, this is the 8th birthday of Guy Boston Sports, July 30th. I've been doing this, you know, it started as a Twitter account, started as a blog, turned into, obviously, video content, then YouTube content. 8 years, guys. 8 years. So anyone that's just, you know, found the channel or found me recently or anything like that, you probably don't know that it's been this long grind. I went full time doing this in March of this year. So what is that, about, 4 months ago? So it took me 7 3/4 of a year to get to doing that. So yeah, I'm really proud of where this is. We've been around for 8 years now. So appreciate everyone that's followed along the way. If you've been around all 8 years, reading the blogs, now into the videos, then wow, credit to you. But just wanted to say that before we started, because it does mean a lot to reflect and look back. So we might do a podcast or one of the Ev Singleton shows that we do and kind of do like a step-by-step so I could tell the story of Guy Boston. Let me know in the comments if that would interest you. Secondarily, it is the MLB trade deadline, so make sure before you're playing and throwing in some wagers and that type of thing, make sure the team that you're betting on may not have any of their stars potentially being traded or anything like that. Just be a little conservative on the deadline. The MLB deadline isn't always as aggressive as the NBA deadline because guys get traded a couple days before and that type of thing, whereas the NBA, I feel like they just get traded on that day. But still, be a little conservative when placing today. But let's go ahead and jump into today's slate. Enough rambling on, but I felt like those little 2 talking points were worth jumping all over, especially the anniversary of Guy Boston here. So, in celebration, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you are new. Let's jump into game number 1 here. We're looking at Detroit taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Yesterday's game ends up being a win for Cleveland, 8-4 there. Jack Flaherty was listed to start, then he gets yanked and scratched, obviously, so he doesn't end up pitching, so this game kind of flips on its head. We did have the Nerfy in that game, but FanDuel, because they were so kind of the pitcher switching, ends up voiding it, so we kind of dodged a bullet there because it ends up being a loss, and it wasn't even the Jack Flaherty substitution that made it an issue. But today we have Joey Wentz on the mound going up against Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams, like I've said in videos before, not exactly my favorite pitcher. Definitely a little bit better at home, I'll give him credit there, than he is on the road. And he's on the road today, which is a little nerve-wracking, but he's going to throw a ton of fastballs. In Detroit, they don't hit fastballs very well. And then Joey Wentz on the mound for Detroit, not exactly a guy that I want to trust either, so in this one, it's a tough one to predict. I think I'm just going to lean towards the Guardians because I think that they have a little bit more of their core together here. And if this is going to be a slugfest, then the team that scored 8 runs yesterday may be feeling some momentum, right? So I don't think that I bet this one myself. The Guardians acquired, who they acquired? I think they acquired Lane Thomas as well. I don't know if he's going to be in the rotation today, the lineup today. Maybe he will. That's another bat for them, right, which is good. But overall, I don't know if I bet this one just because of the pitching here. I don't really want to trust Gavin Williams. So if I were to bet this, maybe maybe instead of going with a money line play, we kind of do our hybrid approach, which is I also like the over in this game. So maybe I say screw both of those and just go Guardians team total over. That way you're kind of betting on the Guardians without having to back the pitcher, and you're betting on the over to some degree. So maybe that's a play. Keep an eye on the pin comment. All right, we got the Blue Jays taking on the Baltimore Orioles here. I almost said the Blue Orioles, which yikes. All right, the brain isn't firing just yet. Let's lock it in, Ev. But we got Corbin Burns on the mound going up against Chris Bassett. Honestly, Chris Bassett isn't necessarily a great pitcher, but he does pitch really well against righties. Unfortunately, you have so many lefties in this lineup today for the Orioles, you can't really even consider him as a viable starter. Gunnar Henderson, Rushman's going to be batting lefty. Santander's going to be batting lefty. Those are two switch hitters, right? O'Hearn's going to be a lefty. And then Mountcastle is probably the only right bat that's like a big bat that you could, not even a big bat, a good bat, I guess, in a sense. So definitely a spot in which Bassett shouldn't necessarily have the best day. Again, he really stinks against lefties, only has especially against righties, and this Orioles lineup barely has any in today. So even from his perspective, I kind of tried to carve out a path to be like, okay, can he compete today? I don't necessarily see it happening. The one thing I'd say is that the worst pitch that the Baltimore Orioles hit is the sinker. That's what Bassett throws nearly 50% of the time. So if you want to bet the Orioles for some big plus money today, that's your sort of saving grace. But again, are we really going to get as nitty gritty and nitpicky as a pitch? I don't think so. It's Corbin Burns on the mound for Baltimore. This is probably a Baltimore first five run line type of play for me. 11-5 in game one yesterday. Then they lose 8-4. But like I said, I always treat game one as if it's like the real game in a sense because, these two teams haven't seen each other, or they're not tired, or blah, 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 right? So technically speaking, in my brain, Baltimore crushed Toronto yesterday, even though they split the series. So yeah, I have a dumb brain, but that's how it's working there. Give me Baltimore again, first 5 run line. That's minus 0.5 in the first 5 if it reads like that on your book. In terms of the total, I think I look at Baltimore's team total over before I get to the full game over. I know we saw 2 high-scoring games yesterday, and you might say, Toronto scored 5 and then they scored 8. Like, they should be able to score runs. Maybe they're flying, right? This is Corbin Burns. Keep that in mind. The best pitcher that Baltimore has to offer. And in 37 plate appearances against, he has a average against of 219, an expected batting average against of 168, and an expected WOBA of 252 against, again, 37 plate appearances against the Toronto Blue Jays roster. So smallish sample size, but enough for me to say Corbin Burns should have a pretty decent day. All right, Phillies taking on the Yanks. I got some hate in the comments yesterday for saying that I think the Yankees bats are kind of potentially back or this is a really good Phillies team. They're going up against Wheeler, but I do think that the Yankees can put up some runs. They scored 14 runs yesterday. They scored 3 right off the jump, then 4 later on. So don't sleep on these Yankees bats. I know they went in a drought. I know the Yankees, especially for me as a Red Sox fan, can be a hateable team, right? But the bats may be back here. They looked obviously damn good yesterday, and that means they've now scored 7, 11, 8, and 14 runs in their last 10 games. And don't look now, this is a Phillies lineup, and I love this Phillies team, right? But their lineup is really cold relative, I should say, to where they were just, a month ago or so. So in this spot, you have Aaron Nola going up against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole really hasn't been the best, I would say. Now, he is going up against a lineup that, again, is a little bit more cold, so maybe we have some leeway there. But to me, this is a spot in which I probably just consider the over because I think the Yankees scored a decent amount of runs again. Garrett Cole is obviously a fantastic pitcher, but he hasn't really strung together. I guess he did string together, 2 good starts in a row prior to, but he's been kind of going great start, or bad start. Great start, or bad start. We're not at the point where he's just firing. His last start he's coming off of was a bad one, so maybe he's due for a great one. But again, he's on the road, which hasn't been his forte, I would say, this season. So Aaron Nola, I expect to also pitch well, but this Yankees lineup, again, I'm not tipping my nose at them. Just give me the over overall. I think both pitchers have a good day, but hopefully there's some runs scored. And I'm thinking that the Yankees, for plus money yet again, could be the play. But you notice yesterday, I didn't want to necessarily bet the Yankees. I just said I think a lot of runs are going to be scored. Similar here today. I'm not disregarding the fact that Aaron Nola is a really good pitcher. Garrett Cole's a really good pitcher. I'm almost betting on one offense and then hoping another offense kind of comes on here. So it's not me saying that these offenses are even better than the pitchers. It's more or less that these offenses, one of them at least, is firing on all cylinders, and then one pitcher has been fairly volatile. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I'll lean Yankees as well as the over. I think I'm looking to take the full game over as my main play here. And then there's definitely some player props that I would consider here in this spot, just due to the fact that I want a lot of runs to come in here. First and foremost, I do think that, you could go with something like Juan Soto over in runs. That guy gets on base tons. Then look at the bat that he has after him. Like, at any moment, Aaron Judge could hit him home. So there's one that I don't mind. Chaz Chisholm Jr. over 0.5 bases. These types of spots where I think the Yankees bats continue to go. Anything that's sort of a propriety, or anything that would make that happen in a sense. All right, Tampa Bay taking on Miami. Edward Cabrera on the mound for Miami. We do have a listed starter here for Tampa Bay, Jeffrey Springs. I'm not all familiar with his game. I believe he just got added back to the roster. I don't think he's pitched this season, so obviously something to make note of there, right? So I don't expect too much out of him, but do we really like the Miami bats? Like, is that what we're kind of looking at here? It doesn't seem like they're really trying all that hard. They just came off of, what is it, a 2-3 win against Milwaukee. And when I say trying that hard, it's like this team is winning games, but if you're watching these games when they played Baltimore and they played Milwaukee, it's like, how are they winning these games, right? So, and then they're selling at the deadline. So I don't know if I want to pull trigger on something like Miami, but maybe this is the time to do so with a pitcher like Springs on the mound. But at least, would you rather the evil that you don't know or the evil that you do know, something like that, right? It's like, well, we do know that Cabrera not that great, right? So do we want to trust that Springs is going to go out there and do his job, or that type of thing? But either way, I think that this is probably a null and void type of a spot for me because of that. I don't want to go with roll with Miami at plus 144. If they were like plus 160, I'd actually consider it, because Springs, one thing we do know is he's a lefty, and Miami hits lefties pretty damn well, actually, way better than they do righties, and Tampa Bay doesn't hit righties well. Cabrera's a righty, so maybe that's the spot. I guess that's the only thing that I would consider leaning towards would be Miami on the money line, just because you're getting a decent price. But guys, this is probably not a spot that I'm going to end up rolling with. The total sitting at 7.5. I'd love to say, hey, screw these pitchers, let's go out and score some runs, but like, screw these offenses too. Like, I'm not going to bet the fact that they're going to score a bunch of runs each. All right, real quick, guys. Prize Picks has changed their sign-up offer for new users, and it's a pretty damn cool one. So if you're not on Prize Picks, go ahead and check it out. Right now, if you sign up using the code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON, or just use the link in the pinned comment, you're getting an amazing first-time depositor deal. You get a offer of placing a $5 lineup. You get $50 instantly. No strings attached, no questions, no minimums, anything like that. Literally just enter a lineup for $5. You're going to get $50 free. So this is a lot different than the we'll match your first deposit up to blah, 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 right? No, you're literally going to get $50. And then what if you hit that $5 lineup, huh? There you go. Now all of a sudden you're cooking with gas over on the app. So go check out Prize Picks. Link in the pinned comment. I think this is an awesome move, and it kind of distinguishes them from other apps out there, right? Because a lot of apps do the 100% of your first deposit match. This is a pretty damn cool thing, and it is Taco Tuesday. Almost lost my breath there. Taco Tuesday, if you don't know what that is, they do multiple discounts throughout the day. So what a better day to go sign up for Prize Picks if you are not on it. Again, $5 lineup entry, you get $50 into your account. Boom, like that instantly. Go ahead and check it out. New users only, guys. Go check it out. That link is in the pinned comment. You're going to get the Taco Tuesdays. You'll get, obviously, this $5 to $50 instantly deposit as well. So go ahead and check it out. There's a link in the description, pinned comment, or use code GUYBOSTON. Let's go ahead and jump back into the slate here. All right, Boston taking on Seattle here. We have James Paxton going up against his old team, I guess, right? He was on the Mariners a while back. Was it Mariners, Yankees, Dodgers, or Red Sox, Dodgers, Red Sox? I don't know. That's I don't have the facts of that order, but I think that's what it is. He's going up against Luis Castillo here for the Seattle Mariners. I do think that Castillo should have a fairly good game, I would say here. I don't necessarily want to sit here and say that he's going to stink, but, and it's a big but, he really hasn't had the best success against these guys on the Red Sox roster. 73 plate appearances against, an expected batting average of 260, a slugging of near 600, and an ex-WOBA of 350. So not exactly like a stud by any means. One thing I will say is the Red Sox crush any righty as of right now. So, like, look at what they did to, was it Gilbert last night, right? Like, you can't really knock Gilbert for that. It's like the Red Sox offense is just on fire right now. So, to me, at minus 105, I can't help but back the Red Sox against a righty right now. Castillo's a fastball pitcher. The Red Sox crush fastballs as well. Even if he goes to the slider or sinker, two of his next few pitches there, they crush those as well. So, give me the Red Sox here on the money line. My one concern, and it is a big concern, is going to be Paxton. Paxton, though this is his first Red Sox start on the season, he's got a 4.43 ERA, a FIP of 4.96, xFIP of 530, average against of 250. Like, he's not having the best year. And Seattle, as bad as that offense is, they actually hit lefties better than righties. So it is worth noting there. Also, I want to throw in the fact that, Paxton kind of stinks against righties, and this is all kind of hurting the money line for the Red Sox, by the way. But if this gets into a shootout, give me the Red Sox bats. That's kind of why I'm okay saying all this. Paxton's only good, and I mean only good, against lefties. Well, if you look at the Seattle lineup, there's one lefty in the lineup against him today, because you have Polanco and then Raleigh, and they're switch hitters. They're going to be batting from the right side because he's a lefty. Josh Rojas, the only lefty in that Seattle lineup. So they've stacked him with some righties. They should be able to score some runs too. That's why the total is so high. I'm going to roll with the Nerfy. Kind of counterintuitive there, but you guys know I love my Seattle Nerfies. I'm going to roll the Nerfy as well as the full game over, which, yes, those don't necessarily correlate, but the way the Red Sox are swinging the bats right now, I don't mind taking a shot at this one, because the Mariners, again, they bat lefties a little bit better. Maybe they can put up 4 runs today, and I think that does a lot for this 10 total. So if I were to do this, Red Sox money line, I'm, again, kind of shooting fish in a barrel here, kind of trusting the fact that we have a good outing out of Paxton. Don't know if that's going to happen. I like the Nerfy as well, and then I think I'd lean towards the over, but the over being way down here in terms of what I'd like. Red Sox money line, definitely my favorite play in this spot, but shaking in my boots with Paxton. But again, this Mariners lineup, it's not like they're very good, even though some signs point to Paxton getting touched up a little bit. All right, before we do get into the Cincinnati and Chicago game, I want to hear in the comments what trade you're looking forward to seeing the most. Is there rumors out there that, a guy's going to go and get traded somewhere and you really want that to happen, whether it helps your team, you think it'll be exciting for the league, that type of thing? In terms of what I'm looking forward to, I want to see if Skubal or if Crochet get moved anywhere, because those two guys, I know that their names have been thrown out on Twitter a lot, but think about the cost of either of those guys, right? Like trading 2 Cy Young worthy arms, you're not the same team, but like either of those guys, you're gonna have to return a lot to those teams. So the Tigers obviously have a lot of pitchers that they look like they could move. Crochet for the White Sox, like I want to see if he gets moved anywhere, that type of thing. So I'm very kind of intrigued to see if those two guys get moved anywhere, because Crochet is such a good pitcher. He's just on such a bad team. So let me know in the comments a trade that you're like either excited to the potentiality of it, or a trade that maybe has happened. What are you most excited about this deadline? And again, it doesn't have to be because your team's getting better. It's just like, what do you think would shake the league a little bit, right? But let's move on to this Cincinnati and Chicago game. In terms of pitchers here, I'm trying to pull the pitcher for the Reds. I believe it's Nick Martinez, but my import got all messed up because I think it was supposed to be Frankie Montas. He got traded, and I believe he's actually pitching today, right? So we'll get to that game in a little bit, but as of right now, I believe it's Nick Martinez going up against Justin Steele here for the Cubs. In terms of odds, like I don't think you're getting a bad price for the Cubs. Minus 130. Yes, they're on the road, but you are getting a Justin Steele Cubs, right? Which he's obviously filthy, and he's been really good on the road here. So in this spot, I think you're getting pretty much a better team other than the bullpen. So maybe I'd take a peek at Cubs on the first 5 money line, or on the first 5 run line if you want some decent odds. First 5 run line right now, if you were to pull trigger on that, let's see what you got. Cubs minus 0.5 for plus 120. Definitely something that I would consider there. Now, in terms of total, I would probably still end up leaning towards the under, or maybe a first 5 under. Neither one of these offenses is all that great. And yes, you do have Nick Martinez on the bump, who I feel like at any given moment he could probably let up a bunch of runs, and we are in Great American Ballpark. Like, a lot leads to some runs being scored, but I probably would end up saying first 5 under, just because let's trust Justin Steele, and then hell, if the Cubs go out there and score 4 runs themselves, then screw it. Like, yeah, then we might lose that way if the Reds score 1, but I'm saying Justin Steele goes out there and pitches a pretty damn good game. So yeah, first 5 under, but I think there's some value here on the Cubs, just at minus 130, minus 120, whatever you can get it at, or even the first 5 run line to maybe sprinkle a half unit on for plus 120 could be something that I consider there. But again, guys, not saying this game is totally the case, but make sure you keep an eye on the trade deadline. You don't want to be betting on a stud or anything like that, and then all of a sudden it's like, poof, that guy got traded. Because again, really pay attention to when you're placing your bets on your sports book. There's usually a checkbox, whether it's MGM, FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, any of those legit books, right? There's usually a checkbox that says, void if the starters aren't the same, or if you leave it unchecked, you're going to get that bet no matter what. So make sure to keep an eye on that. That's actually super, super important. Those little things matter so much in sports betting. I always talk about how I'm an average sports bettor, and we want to do this just to be entertained to the game, and if we win, we win, that type of thing. But in reality, like some of these little things, like getting the best price on sports books and utilizing multiple sports books, which we have a bunch of links to sports books in the description and pinned comment as well. Those little things can actually benefit you even if you're not fully paying attention to them, but you got to kind of utilize those tools at your disposal. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys, because it is good advice, stuff that's helped me totally. All right, Mets taking on the Twins. Clearly, this is probably going to be somewhat of a long video because we are rambling away here. Maybe I'm just fired up on Guy Boston's birthday, right? But nonetheless, in fact, comment happy birthday for Guy Boston. Not for me, but for Guy Boston. But we got the Mets taking on the Twins. In yesterday's outing, we had the Mets win 15-2. What's great though is, we cashed the Smurfy in there, only 1 run scored. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's a little inside thing. I think I invented it, but SMRFI. So we have the Nerfy Yerfy, but I like the Smurfy, which is some runs in the first inning, meaning under 1.5 runs in the first inning. There was only 1 run scored, so we were able to parlay that with the Red Sox one in that cash as well. So definitely a strategy that I think is worth considering moving forward. It's just under 1.5 runs in the first inning versus no runs in the first inning. But back to this game, we have Sean Manaea on the mound going up against David Festa. Manaea, a better pitcher. I think you're getting a better batting lineup here out of the Mets as well. So I'm going to lean towards the Mets on the money line. -130 feels like it's a good enough price tag as well. Like I'm not saying that that's they're overpriced or anything like that. So yeah, give me the Mets here in this spot. I also don't mind taking a peek at the over. 5-4 seems like it's well within reach for both of these teams. And say the Twins do kind of snap out of, I don't want to say they've been in a slump, but say they do snap into this series and score a decent amount of runs, then yeah, maybe like they score 4 runs and it's like, okay, well, they've done their job. I think the Mets are going to win this game, so 5-4 type of win. Give me that. Real quick, guys, not many player props talked about in today's video for reasons that I've already talked about with the trade deadline, but yeah, I didn't want to go player prop heavy here just due to the fact that some guys could get moved, or even keeping up with the trade deadline is tough in baseball because guys are getting traded overnight and that type of thing. So not many player props talked about in today's video, but keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if we do end up rolling with any. But most of the plays today are going to be money lines or overs or nerfies and yerfies, that type of thing. So just wanted to throw that out there because you're probably like, where are the player props? I didn't have any luck finding any hammers today, but hopefully some of the other guys are able to. All right, Texas taking on St. Louis. We cashed this one yesterday. We had Texas first 5 money line. They end up cashing for us. Today, the odds are a little bit different. Actually, they somewhat in the same boat, right? But you do have Max Scherzer going up against Lance Lynn, which I think is a pretty substantial pitching advantage. The one thing I would say is Lance Lynn, if there's any time to bet Lance Lynn, it is at home, and obviously St. Louis is at home here today. So I guess that's something worth noting. Nothing that's going to kind of keep me from liking the Rangers. Max Scherzer, obviously on the road today, so maybe that's a hurtful spot, but he has 160 plate appearances against current guys on this Cardinals roster, 213 average against, an expected batting average against of 185, an expected slugging against 297, an expected WOBA of 233. If you don't know what WOBA is and you hear that all the time, it's weighted on base average. So essentially, how often do guys get on base, but they weigh it. So if a guy gets hit by a pitch or an error or he walks, they don't weigh it as much as a nice, clean, crisp hit getting on base and that type of thing. So WOBA is essentially, batting average and on base average kind of mixed and weighed in a sense. So it's really important stat in terms of pitchers having guys on base, that type of thing. So yeah, that WOBA at 220, 233, and 100, and this is not a small sample size, 160 plate appearances against. I trust Max Scherzer to be able to go out there and do his thing. Bullpen-wise, I still wouldn't trust what we have from Texas. Yeah, they looked good yesterday, but still nothing I'm willing to trust. I think my play in this one may be to split a unit for the first 5 money line and first 5 run line. First 5 money line, you're going to get -120 odds. First 5 run line, -0.5 here, you're going to get +115. So there's a consideration as well overall. I think that this is just a Texas lineup that is comparable to St. Louis, but I'm really banking on Scherzer today. He's going to go fastball 52% of the time. St. Louis, 26th in the league against the fastball. fastball. So I'm trusting Scherzer today, just like we trust Eovaldi. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we did yesterday. I didn't want to say Texas's bats were better or anything like that, but Eovaldi put a lot of eggs in his basket. Think about how dumb that sentence. I put a lot of eggs in his basket. I put a lot of eggs in his basket yesterday, all of them. Doing the same thing with Scherzer today. So Crazy Eye Scherzer, go out there and do your thing. In terms of the total, I think I'd go, maybe Texas team total over in the first 5 or something that correlates to that, because I don't have too much interest in this total, more so in Texas first 5, obviously. But when I get super high on some plays, sometimes I get a little too confident, as most sports bettors do, right? And it just blows up in our face. So I don't want to go too in on one idea here, because what if it, flips the script? All of a sudden we have multiple bets that were kind of correlated, and poof, they blow up in our face. All right, we got the White Sox taking on Kansas City here. White Sox with, Jonathan Cannon on the mound, actually pretty good at home, going up against Michael Wacha, who was pitching well. I would still say pitching well, but nothing too crazy. He's kind of having good game, bad game, good game, bad game. Still has a 1.6 ERA over his last 5, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Going up against, like I said, Jonathan Cannon. Right now, we do have a heavy favorite of Kansas City, minus 190. The White Sox actually scored 5 runs yesterday, which is surprising. I'd still lean Kansas City, but I don't think that this one makes its way anywhere near being a final play, so we can kind of go past it. Maybe in terms of a total, Kansas City team total over, if you can get a good price tag at it on it, but this isn't my favorite spot. All right, I talked to you guys about Prize Picks. How about I show you an app that just helps you absolutely cash on Prize Picks like it's your day job, right? Which maybe if you cash enough, you can make it your day job. But this is the Daily Grind Fantasy Optimizer. Let's filter this to MLB. You can see all of the best plays over on Prize Picks right now, as well as Underdog, Parlay, Play Better. We have Sleeper on there. We have all DraftKings Pick 6. All of the apps that you guys know and love are on here as well. Let's focus on Prize Picks for this, because what this does is it compares all of the offerings on Prize Picks, all of the plays that are over there right now, right? And then it looks at, okay, well, what are popular sports books? You have Pinnacle, which is obviously the sharpest sports book in the world, FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM, Caesars. What are they offering for odds? So you know the value that they offer on, that they have on Prize Picks, because Prize Picks doesn't care about odds, right? So 2 for 2 is going to be 3 times, 3 for 3 is going to be blah blah blah, that type of thing, regardless of odds. So why would you put non-favorite odds on sports books into your Prize Picks slip? So that's what's great about this. You can also identify some line discrepancies like this. Jeffrey Springs pitching strikeouts over 5. 4.5 is what Prize Picks is offering. They are absolutely putting it at juiced odds. And then you can see 5.5 on some books is plus money. So 5 taking the over actually gives you a 53.88% chance to hit based on sportsbooks odds. You can also target minimum data points. Say we only want plays that 4 sportsbooks are offering odds for. You could see it here. So this is a great tool. If 1, you want to validate your picks, or 2, you don't have the time to do the research, you head right over here, you look at the percent odds to hit, and then you can tell what is valuable. And you can also say, hey, I don't really care about, fantasy batting score or anything like that. You could filter all these through. It's really cool. And then the other tool that they have is the AI slip generator, which literally, look at this thing, has printed money over time ever since last August when it came about. But what this does is it looks at correlated plays and everything like that, and the best value plays out there, and you can one-click place them. So only 2 underdog plays right now, but for Prize Picks, they have those there as well. All that being said, guys, head over to dgfantasy.com or use the link in the pinned comment, and if you use code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON, you're going to get 25% off. This thing will pay for itself in no time. I can promise you that. Go ahead and check it out. Again, 25% off with code GUYBOSTON. You need to use the code. The link in the pinned comment won't just auto-apply it, so go ahead and check that out. Link in the pinned comment. Use code GUYBOSTON. That optimizer, like you guys have seen me post the slips on Twitter and stuff, absolutely goated. Absolutely goated. All right, Milwaukee taking on Atlanta. This is the Frankie Montas start that we were talking about. So Frankie Montas making a start for his new team, going up against Bryce Elder for Atlanta, or at least what should be Bryce Elder for Atlanta here. I think for the price, I'm going to consider Atlanta plus 105. Am I really big on their lineup or anything like that? No, but you have a new guy starting for the team, and Bryce Elder, at least you could say, is comfortable being a Brave, right? So yeah, I'll probably lean towards Atlanta, but with Frankie Montas on the mound, I already consider him a pretty volatile pitcher, right? Now he's pitching for a new team in a new ballpark. I don't think that I'm going to get too high on this Milwaukee team, especially paying, a price tag like that. So hopefully that makes sense. This is one of those spots where I kind of told you guys at the top of the show, when guys are traded or if they are, like, be conservative. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily the spot for this. I don't mind a peek at the total. If Frankie Montas gets touched up a bit, the Brewers definitely have the better offense as well, so maybe that's a play. But again, probably sitting this one out, being a little conservative. All right, Houston taking on Pittsburgh. The Paul Skeens effect is real. Now, he did end up, letting in, I think he had, one earned run, two came in. Houston was winning for a while, and then, was it Michael A. Taylor hit a home run in the top of the ninth, which now I kick myself for staying up and watching that game because we had Houston plus 120. But the Paul Skeens effect, look at that. Houston today, the pitchers are just different, right? Same teams, pitchers are different, though. Minus 185 in terms of the odds. So the Paul Skeens effect is real because they were, Houston was underdogs yesterday. Today, I like Houston again. They have Hunter Brown going against Martin Perez. I don't necessarily want to trust him as far as I can throw him. He loves throwing the sinker. Houston crushes the sinker. I don't think that I can get behind a minus 185 play, so that kind of goes kaput on that one right away. But to me, there's not the easiest of angles getting to Pittsburgh, especially after a loss last night. So I like the Astros, maybe even a Pirates team total under. If we can get it at 4.5, which probably isn't going to be the case. Let's see, under 4.5, yeah, it's minus 200. So you'd have to go 3.5 or minus 115. That's a little bit too low for me. So if you can snag that 4.5 anywhere for digestible odds, that's probably the move that I'd go with in terms of playing this game at all. But I like Houston, maybe in some sort of parlay or something like that. Hunter Brown has actually looked okay in plenty of starts here, and when Hunter Brown's going to pitch well for you, you might as well ride Houston because their bats should be able to show up, Angels taking on the Rockies. We do have Griffin Canning listed on the mound for the Angels going up against Cal Quantrill. I do think that, this might be a Rockies play. I don't think that I have the cojones, which I say all the time. Someone said in the comments the other day, you got to put a shirt on the store that says cojones. And I was like, I kind of want to, but kind of wild at the same time. But I don't know if I'll have the cojones to pull the trigger here, but I do think you have the better bats in Colorado, which is crazy to say. And Cal Quantrill, I think, actually is a more serviceable pitcher than the Angels. So I'll sound the psycho alert alarm, but give me the Rockies here. Again, I don't know if I'm going to have the nuts to pull trigger, but I think that this could be a spot in which, I consider it, as crazy as that is to say. So yeah, Rockies, in terms of the total, I mean, this could be a 4-1 win for the Rockies or a 10-8. You know what I mean? You never know with these teams, and it's not me backing the offenses. It's more so, I gave Cal Quantrill his props there, right? Griffin Canning stinks, and both these bullpens are not very good. So I think I'm just going to stay away from the total. I'll lean over if anything. So Rockies go out there and score as many runs as you want, type of thing. All right, we got San Diego taking on the Dodgers here. Should be a good series as these guys are obviously battling it out, and rivals here as well. We got Waldron on the mound going up against Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow, obviously the pitching advantage, but don't forget that Waldron's kind of the wonky pitcher here, right? He's going to throw you the knuckleball, and people are going to be kind of shook by it. I will say, these odds show that these are rivalry. You're getting Tyler Glasnow at minus 135. Usually when he's pitching, against anybody, it's a pretty hefty price tag. So the value here to me would still be on the Dodgers, but I don't think that it's going to be a very high scoring game. I think that they think Waldron's going to kind of compete as well, because if they thought Glasnow was going to have a good game, suppress the Padres offense, and then they didn't think Waldron's going to have a good game, this could be a runaway spot for the Dodgers to score a bunch of runs, right? But no, this total's down at 7.5. The Dodgers are, only favored marginally in terms of what you'd expect. So I think this is a low scoring game. I'm going to lean towards the under as well as the first 5 under, and then also Dodgers on the money line, just because, again, I'm a big believer in sometimes taking spots that you wouldn't normally get those odds. Like yesterday, Houston for plus 120. Yeah, they lost, but I would make that bet the same way. They were winning that game going into the 9th. You know what I mean? Like I do think that, getting Houston at plus 120, you're not going to get that opportunity very often. Same thing with Glasnow on the mound. Minus 135 still pretty juicy, but Glasnow on the mound, I like the spot here. So give me the Dodgers on the money line as well as the first 5 under. Right now, first 5 under. And it's good value because obviously, 7.5 game total overall, but under 4.5 in the first 5 is minus 125 over on DraftKings. So pretty good value there. You have more than half of that total made up through 5 innings, which is obviously more than half of the game as well. So that's going to be my spot. I don't mind the full game under either. But in terms of the bullpens here, San Diego's bullpen is not as good as the Dodgers. So I don't want the Dodgers, the better offense, to go out there and just wreak havoc on the bullpen. So first 5 is how I'd play this in terms of a total. All right, Arizona taking on Washington. Ryan Nelson on the mound going up against Patrick Corbin. This is obviously just a really good Arizona lineup. This is a close game yesterday, 9-8, right? Arizona was losing. Yeah, they were losing by big up until the 7th inning. So don't look at that and say, wow, it was a back and forth game. No, like Washington almost freaking won the game, which was a lean of mine. And obviously we didn't pull the trigger, but I'm glad we didn't. But 9-8 win. But what I would say is that Arizona's offense is cooking right now. And now you have Patrick Corbin on the mound. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's probably going to let up a few runs here. So I think that I'd have to take a peek at Arizona, but the only way that I'd touch it is by looking at their team total over, because two things. I don't trust Ryan Nelson, and look at the price tag for Arizona on the money line, -185, right? So this is going to be a spot in which we consider Arizona to score a bunch of runs. I don't care if they win the game or not, because I just want them to score a few runs here. So the total's at 9.5. If we can get them at 4.5, I don't know if we'll be able to, but we should be able to get some decent. Let's see if we can check that right now. I'm thinking it might be somewhat juiced, but just not crazily juiced, right? So over 4.5 for them. Yeah, -135. It's not all that bad, right? So maybe that's the play there, but that's kind of the only thing I'd look at, because I don't trust Ryan Nelson to shut down this Washington offense. Like, Washington was, they went offense. I knew that they would play well against Jordan Montgomery. That was the essence in what I said yesterday. I didn't think the bullpen would blow it that much. They did, but, you know, I still think this could be a similar spot where Washington could get to Ryan Nelson. So I just want Arizona to score some runs. All right, we got San Fran taking on Oakland here. JP Sears on the mound going up against, I believe it's Robbie Ray for San Francisco, who has one start, one win this season, and that's his only appearance for San Francisco. He's a 32-year-old. He's pitched in the majors before, but again, like I told you last time he pitched, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I forget Robbie Ray. Like, he hasn't pitched in over a year, and he was in he pitched one game last year or something like that, you know what I mean? So it was like, I'm just transparent about that stuff. He hadn't pitched in a while before that. He's pitching again. I still don't know exactly what to make of him, but to me, Oakland has decent bats right now for, you know, what you'd normally consider Oakland, but JP Sears is not trustworthy. So maybe this is just an over spot overall to be able to say, hey, go out there and score a bunch of runs. This Oakland team, if I were to read off, you know, their last 10 games here in terms of runs scored, it's pretty impressive. They do have a couple outliers in there, but 13-8, 5-4, 8-1. There's the outlier. 6-5-3, not all that great. 6. So, like, they've been scoring some runs. And then even San Francisco, now they were at home against Colorado, so it's not the altitude. They were at home. 11-4, 5-5 in that series. So maybe there's a lot of runs scored today. Not too many good pitchers. Both pitchers not so good on the mound is what I should say. So yeah, I like the over 8 in this spot. If you can snag it at 7.5, which I think FanDuel has it at 7.5, don't mind that either. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Obviously, we didn't go through many player props. I'll probably do a little cut in and let you guys know earlier in the video. But hopefully you guys understand that when we don't do something like that, it's for a reason. In this trade deadline, you know, I don't want to throw a bunch of player props out there either, because even if the guy you're betting on doesn't, you know, get traded or something like that, if his team makes a trade, it could impact the lineup, could impact anything. So kind of stuck away from player props today. You're probably not going to see too many plays in the pin com, because I want to get through the trade deadline and not get screwed by it. And again, make sure when you're placing your bets, if there is a checkbox to say, you know, starting pitcher needs to be these starting pitchers, or void if it's not these starting pitchers, consider checking that if you want, because you don't want to go in there with information you don't have. Like yesterday, we got saved by that. I was betting on that Nerfy because Jack Flaherty was starting. Major reason, right? He gets scratched, and then we get our money back. Like, we didn't have to go through with it, and that ended up losing. So we got kind of lucky there. So make sure to keep an eye on that. And yeah, appreciate everyone that has obviously supported and helped me along the way. Like, going full-time in this is absolutely crazy. And the fact that, you know, we've been at this for 8 years, like, a lot of people always are like, wow, you blew up like this past year and all that. And it's like, yeah, we definitely got to a point where it was full-time worthy, and, you know, I could replace the income of my day job. But 8 years is 8 years, man. That's a grind, you know what I mean? Never stopping, always putting in the work. So, you know, it shows that it's possible, but hopefully that puts into perspective for some of you guys that want the same thing. It took a long time, nearly a decade, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough stuff, but it's so worth it. So keep working, guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.